because really what it comes down to is my circumstances are an identity statement I give myself. So in business, when things aren't working well, it doesn't matter that the business isn't working well. From this standpoint, I'm not worried about the business. I'm worried about what that action, that interaction, that response, that outcome says about me.
Mhm.
And this is everybody. Again, if I don't live from who I am, then my circumstances become more than just something to figure out, some challenge to work through. It becomes this is an identity statement about me. If my relationship isn't working out at home and I don't know who I'm created to be, well, that's a statement of me. I'm not worthy. I'm not worth loving. So in either case, it all comes down to identity.
Welcome to another episode of The Rooted Founder. Today, we're going to be talking about identity. And this is a topic that is really important because in all of my years of organizing to scale businesses, I have come up with the saying that you cannot organize and scale your business unless you organize and scale yourself first. And oftentimes our pursuit of freedom, time freedom, money freedom, location freedom, we end up trapped in the thing that is designed to create our freedom. And we can fix it operationally with systems and playbooks and hiring people, but there's still a component of who we are as a leader that often creates a gap that we have to learn how to close. And I guess the saying is the ultimate master loves the seeker. And so this is like an inner journey each of us as business owners and entrepreneurs must go on in order to bridge that gap. So my guest today is Mark Collins, and he's written a book called Life Mastery. He also has a business background. So we're just going to have a conversation around his journey as a man, organizing to scale himself, and then also his journey as a business owner, and see where it goes. So Mark, excited to have you.
Thanks so much, Staci. I'm excited for the conversation.
So let's start with the business journey. Was there a time in your life when you were young that you knew you were going to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think back on it often because I was 17 years old, graduated from high school at 17, a little bit early, and getting my job while I was looking for college and trying to figure out my career path. And I actually got 3 jobs that first summer, all of them part-time. So a lot of juggling, but I was young. But in my first job, I knew I didn't want to be there. And it wasn't that I didn't want to earn the income. There was just this sense that I didn't want to take orders from somebody else. I felt like I had capabilities, or I was going to have capabilities to create my own thing. And so, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, from the very first job I had, I knew that I wanted to create something of my own, not and I've had jobs and I've had the ability to invest in other people's dream, but sometimes you want to be the person who guides that dream that you have. And so, yeah, it was the very first job. It wasn't too far after I'd actually started working.
Yes. So was it a revolt against authority or just this desire to have control?
I think it's both. I think it's both. I'm a natural revolter against authority, I guess. But yeah, it is that thing of, I think I can create something. I think I can bring something of value to the market. And so, yeah, it was both of those things all at once. So it wasn't, not, I was still trying to be a good employee, but yeah, there was always that look towards what can I do that invests in me?
Yes. Well, I can relate. I feel like if anyone told me not to do something, I was just going to do it because they told me not to do it.
Exactly.
But that's grit a business owner and entrepreneur needs to succeed at a high level. So on your business journey, was your first business a slam dunk, or how many did it take for you to get to success, if you will?
Yeah, it was definitely a slam dunk, but it was a slam dunk right into the trash can. So, it took me about 5 businesses to really get it right, and it was really kind of trying to figure out what's my niche, but also what's my capability and what's that thing I can bring to market that other people are going to want. That great idea you have that seems awesome to you, but nobody else needs. So there were a lot of them, but there was that learning curve because I don't have a business background necessarily, and I didn't grow up with parents who had one. So, you kind of learn as you go, but there was definitely a learning curve, but there was also great wisdom that came from that in trying to figure it out and continue to persevere even when it didn't work.
I love what you just said about that. So there was great wisdom that was gained from it. And I often say that experience is how we gain wisdom.
Yeah.
And I had another mentor say that experience is the thing that you needed right after you needed it. So you make the mistake and then,
Yeah.
so in your journey, what were some of the biggest internal hurdles that you had to overcome to get the business you wanted?
Well, that's a great question. There's hurdles to get there and there's hurdles while you're there. So for me, the hurdles to get there were just that faith in the capability. When you have, like all of us, you have that track record of trying and it not working out, whatever you want to call it. You could call it failure in education, one or the other. But in that place, really not giving up on that dream and being able to continue to feed myself, even in those times when the bank account and the payroll aren't matching and you're trying to kind of struggle through some things. So yeah, it was that internal belief system of, I can still do this, right? Trial and error, whatever it takes to get there, to have that fire inside. Now, if we talked about some of the challenges and issues while in business as an internal one, we could go down that road as well.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there are a lot of people who desire to start businesses, or there's a lot of people who already made the leap and have a business, and they're hitting a ceiling where I'm working 24/7. I'm trapped in my business. My business looks like my kitchen junk drawer. Problems pop up and I'm just hitting them down. And in the context of identity and keeping your head screwed on straight in moments like that, how do you, as a man, leader, coach, business owner, pastor, keep yourself rooted and grounded so that you don't implode under the pressure or lose your basis or your anchor?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a belief system that you have to have. And I mean, it could go a couple of different ways because there's the belief system and the mechanisms of making the business happen, right? And the strategies and the capabilities and trying to manage a business well, not trying to do everything. When you're in a small business, you wear all the hats. But even at that point, there's this place of prioritization that you need to have so that you're not trying to do everything at once and be overwhelmed by it, but do what matters now versus what matters next week at the end of the day or what have you. Those logistical, strategical things. But then there's the personal side of it. And that's kind of, I've created that course, Life Mastery, because of that side, really, because it wasn't necessarily struggling with the strategy, but this understanding or this, let's be honest, this fear of failing and this, it's the meaning behind the activities. What's happening when the bankroll isn't working, when the finances aren't there, when the employees do quit, or those things are happening. Your supplier doesn't show up when you need that product. It's not necessarily the activities of business, but the belief system walking into it that determines your health while you're in it. And what I mean is identity for me. I say this all the time. I don't have a tattoo, but if I did, it would say identity is everything. As a leader, as a person, as a man, in business, who you are walking into it is who you'll be in it. What I mean is that the person you believe you are, somebody who's capable, somebody who's able, somebody who's got the intellect, wisdom, and ability to succeed at whatever. Because as you know, Staci, challenges will always come up in everybody's life, but specifically in business. There'll always be something to conquer, to change, to challenge, to overcome. The problem is, or the challenge is, believing that you're a person who can do it. So that place where you're feeling stuck, for me, was a place of really a belief system of, fighting off a fear of failure. We could kind of unpack how I came about being a person who was challenged with that. Imposter syndrome was another one. But in that place.
Let's unpack that, because that is, I think, where a lot of people get stuck, is that fear of failure, fear of success, imposter syndrome.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, as you know, I'm sure in your realm and in mine as well, I see it all the time. I don't know anybody who isn't dealing with it at some level in their life. And some people use it supposedly as fuel, which we can unpack how that's probably unhealthy and a limitation in itself. But for me, what it looked like was, business success, academic success, athletic success came from a place of a guy trying to measure up to his father, growing up with a strong dad who did a great job, the best job he could. My father had no father growing up. So to even do an adequate job is something that is admirable. And so, my dad did the best job he could and did some great things and brought some traits into my life that I still use today. But there's this challenge when you're growing up in the household of somebody you don't feel like you measure up to. And it's that feeling of being, devalued or not measuring up in their own household. So, growing up and having a few academic challenges, let's be honest, that kind of reinforce that thinking that, well, you're not as good as. Mm-hmm. At the same time, believing that there was more than the life that I was living, as you and I talked about in my first job. Even at that stage, 16, 17, and even younger, and for sure into my 20s, believing that there was more than the life I was living. Not that I wasn't succeeding or accomplishing things, getting through college, having my bachelor's degree and becoming a second degree black belt, and then business success at a high level that we were able to sell at a mid to upper six-figure income, right? Even with all of those things, the challenge was there was a fear of failure that came along. And so for me, Staci, I thought success was supposed to change that, right? Mm-hmm. When you feel like you're going to fail, well, when you succeed, all of it's supposed to evaporate and you're supposed to become a different person. Come to find out, as we unpack in my course, Life Mastery, and my book, Life Mastery as well, you're either living from who you're created to be or you're living from what your life has told you, your past, your pains, your experiences, the things people have said over you. And I was definitely one of those people that was living from that. So plant yourself in a business and trying to succeed at it while at the same time having those thoughts that are saying, if payroll dips, if income doesn't come in when you're expecting it to, and now all of a sudden those are those thoughts of, wow, I just spent a bunch of money on this product. I spent a bunch of money on this technology. Now the money isn't coming in I expected. You're seeing bankruptcy down the road, potentially blaming yourself for it, and all these kind of thoughts that go around in your head really are value statements saying, am I really good enough for what I'm doing? Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was that, guy. So the internal struggle was more important than the external struggle. There's always answers for logistical, strategic things that you need to walk through. But there's only one answer for the person that you're walking in with, and that's walking in that place of your created value. I call it in our course. It's identity, right? Everybody has an identity. Everybody has an impact that they're meant to have in the world. You either believe it and walk into it, or you're trying to use your world, your business, your success to make up for your lack of belief in it.
Mm-hmm. I have a very similar journey. I had climbed the mountains that I wanted to climb.
Yeah.
And I got to the top and I was like, this does not feel like I thought it was going to feel.
Yeah.
And what I concluded in my own life was very similar to you, where I had this bar that I was supposed to live up to. And even if I hit it, it still didn't produce the internal peace that I was looking for. And so I would find myself trapped in this, I call it the performance perfection trap. Like I can perform my way into enoughness, or I can become perfect, and then therefore I will be enough. And both avenues didn't materialize for me. So I had to go on what I call a soul journey to figure out my identity that existed beyond space and time, beyond what I do. And I call that my innate value versus what I do is my market value. So I get compensated in the marketplace for my contribution, my actions, my doing, but it never threatens my innate identity. I have been over the years thinking about, is this something you can gift to somebody? Or is this something each person must soldier alone?
That's a really good question. Yeah, actually, that's why I have a course called Life Mastery and a book, Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, Not by Default. It really came out of my own journey, that same journey that you're talking about, of believing that there's more for me than where I'm at. And what I would say is, like with yourself, Staci, anybody who is listening to this and has that dissatisfaction, to me, there's a chapter in our book, and what I call it is dissatisfaction is a gift. And dissatisfaction is a gift because it is what I believe, this innate understanding on the inside that there's more than where I'm at, that this isn't the sum total, that it's not just on that hamster wheel of continuing to succeed to try and hold off that feeling of not, lack of value, insecurity, whatever the thing is, whatever the name brand is you want to put on it. But there's this thing on the inside that I believe, or at least everybody I've worked with and all the people I talk to say, is that there's this belief that there's more than now. There's more than this. There's more than me continuing to strive to succeed, to try and satisfy that itch on the inside that never gets satisfied. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely, and it's not necessarily gifting, but it's giving you a path that's different. For my book, it's Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, not by Default. And what most people do, yourself and myself included, is living by default, which means that I'm just supposed to manage the life that I encounter. Like with succeeding, or with, ignoring those thoughts, or with, medicating myself with whatever the thing is I'm trying to use against the life I don't like. It's trying to manage the life that comes at me. What I try and give the people I work with is a paradigm shift of there's a life by design, which means this me living from whom I'm created to be, right? Because if I don't know who I am, the world will have to make up the difference. And that means my relationships will have to be perfect, and my businesses will have to succeed, and all the things that I strive for, I actually achieve. But the problem is they're a momentary success. They're not something that actually confirms who you are. They're a substitute for who you are. So we work within the Life Mastery course of starting to unpack some of those things, exactly what you said. It's what am I apart from my stuff? My title, my role, my income, right? My power, my prestige, my position, right? Who are you apart from that? That's the thing that's unshakable. That's the thing that's unchangeable. I tell the people I work with, you're not somebody who works to prove who you are, right? You don't succeed to prove who you are. You succeed because of who you are. It's you lived out that causes these results. It's not the results that create you.
Yes. Oh, my wish for humanity is that we all get to this point where we get into that seat that you're talking about of wholeness and completeness, and then we create from there. What we will create from that seat is something that, like the Life Mastery course in the book, it's something that helps people operate their lives, their bank account with a lot more fulfillment instead of this fear and unease, which we do a lot.
Yeah.
So let's just say each person arrives there. And then what was your journey after that? So you get to this seat where you are whole, complete. You've already climbed the academic mountain, the financial mountain, the family mountain. Now you feel like you have a calling, a purpose, some type of meant for more energy.
Yeah.
And then what was that journey like for you to actually it materialize into something?
Yeah, actually, it's an interesting thing. So the revelation obviously comes before the action. And so for me, it was really starting to understand and get some tools and strategies. Okay, so how do I live it out? How do I unpack who I'm created to be? How do I allow myself to separate myself from the things that I've used as my benchmark, my grade, for who I am as a man or as a husband or as a business owner? And so when I was able to do that, it's really starting to kind of unpack that. First off, who am I? Second off, am I somebody worthy of celebrating? And am I somebody who is a person who's accomplished, not accomplishing? And so there's a difference between the two. Somebody who's accomplished is somebody who has a track record of success in their life. Somebody who's accomplishing is always looking for that next bar, like you said, that next bar to hit, that next thing to do. If I get that next car, if I get that next million, if I get that next whatever, Rolex, now I'll have made it. And nobody ever does. So if you're on that journey, don't be surprised if you don't feel satisfied. You're just like Staci and the rest of us. But there's this place of accomplishment where you're literally living from who you're created to be. And so it starts with identity. It starts with unpacking, hey, who are you? The people I work with, we start with an I am statement. Write down who you are apart from the things you do. That person, I'm a person of value and worth. I'm a person of integrity and passion. I'm a person who's black and white. When I'm all in, and I'm all in till the end. I love deeply, I feel greatly, and I impact the world with what I do. Yeah, whatever the statement is, that's one I can give you. That's one I have for myself. And then secondarily, what's a celebration? If we want to unpack identity, what do you celebrate about you? Here's the truth of the matter for many of the people I know. I could talk to men specifically. We have a hard time giving ourselves credit for who we are. We can look in the mirror and find the fault. The way we could have done it better, right? Oh, I could have done this better in that deal. I could have made this greater decision, right? But we never give ourselves credit for being who we are. And the challenge is if I can't celebrate me, then I can't be celebrated by anybody else. And in that place, you start to unpack and have a better picture of who you are. And then the accomplishment is, what are you doing in your life that you're already accomplishing things today? Maybe like with you, Staci, I sure was in that place where I needed that next accomplishment to prove it, right? I'm not good enough, but if I do this thing, if I make that thing, right? We just had the Olympics. And what I tell the people I work with is The Olympians never wait till they get a gold medal till they celebrate what they've done. Till they recognize the accomplishment they've made, because they know that it's all these milestones that lead to that ultimate success. But they also know that if they can't celebrate themselves for what they're doing now, they won't have the motivation to get to that level they're created for.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can't find my accomplishments today and say I'm a person who's succeeding on a daily basis, then I can't really be a person who gets to that ultimate level and find satisfaction in it, because I'm waiting to get there until I actually pat myself on the back for being a person of worth.
Mm. One of the things that I implemented as a habit that has been so helpful to me and really echoes what you're saying here is on my nightstand, I have a journal, and it's specifically called my celebration journal.
Nice.
And at the end of every day, I write in it the things that I could celebrate for that day. And then over time, I have so many things that I am celebrating. And so my state of being becomes more energized, more hopeful, more self-esteem,
Yeah.
self-confidence, self-trust improves. And then
Very
on
good.
my down days, I have something that I can go back to see and reinforce that I am a person who shows up in life with character, who shows up in life with grace, who shows up in life with truth, who shows up in life when it's messy. And
Yeah.
I have proof of it over time. And so no matter what could be on the horizon and what could be coming in the pipeline of my business or the world or the media, I am still rooted in something that I've reinforced within myself that nobody could take away, not my significant other, not my friends, family, my bank account, my business.
Yeah.
And that has helped me. That's one of the habits that has helped me so much. And I want to just also talk to your point about men specifically. And this is a little bit of tangent off of organizing yourself and organizing your business, but it's something that I'm seeing in the world. I was in Montana for an event, and I went to some juice bar to get a juice. And I live in Austin, Texas, but I was in Montana, and this man opened all the doors that you could possibly open. He opened for me. And I was sitting there like, thank you so much. And part of my feminine wanted to turn around and just hug him to say, thank you for still showing up. Because I think maybe to what the work you do is men not recognizing themselves. But me as a woman, I also recognize how I have failed to recognize. And to see the value of what men are doing just in simple ways to maintain order in our world. And I don't know if you have an opinion on this, but in your work with men, I know that for me, I want to recognize it more. And for the men that you are doing the work with, self-recognition is so huge. But is there any wounding around that is also healed along that journey?
Yeah, I think innately we want to measure up as a man.
Mm-hmm.
And what that looks like depends on your definition, whether it's the definition you get in your household from, my case, my father, right? My father was a person who, became a Christian later in life, but early in life, he was a guy who was going to bars and doing crazy things and, being that kind of individual. Mm-hmm. So when you hear a story of a person who looks like that, then you're like, well, that's what it looks like to be a man. So if I'm not there, doing the things that are being done in his realm, and when he was a person living out there, then I'm not a man, or what the world says is a man, or what the expectation of others that are on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can never, whatever, it's an older standard, but I think it still holds true today. You can never show your emotion, you can never fail. We have this understanding that you need to be perfect. You need to not worry. You need to not be anxious. You need to not have fear. You need to always show up. You need to always provide, and you need to be quiet while you do it. So there's this idea of what manhood looks like. And so what we unpack is certainly it falls in the line of manhood, but it also really is an individual understanding of, hey, who are you? We can't change the world, but we can change ourselves in the world. And what that allows us to do is when I understand who I'm created to be, as I said earlier, the world doesn't have to make up the difference. When I don't know who I am, then the world does. And then it means that, my position, my power, my prestige, my income, whatever the things you're using as your benchmark, those things have to measure up because I don't, or at least I feel I don't. Mm-hmm. It even comes down to relationship, honestly, Staci. And so with my wife, I tell people this, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but I tell them my wife is a benefit, not a necessity in my life. Mm-hmm. She's a benefit because I know who I am, and innately because I understand my identity, she gets permission in the relationship to just be her, not to be her and what needs to be made up for the insecurity I have. And that's been a journey because, as I talk about, life mastery is a journey. So it's not like I came into the marriage polished and perfect. I came into the marriage a guy who was wounded, who was insecure, who was trying to have the world in his life make up for the insecurity he had on the inside. As I continue to use the tools and strategies we have, that guy started to show up in business with assurance, with confidence, with the understanding that he was the answer, not the question that was coming into the circumstance. And in that place, it worked its way into the relationship as well, where now a confident husband, confident in who he is, allows his wife to be who she is. And in that place, we give ourselves permission to be the safe place for each other. So that didn't really completely answer your question, but that's kind of where my journey has been as well.
Yes, it's beautiful because what you're really tapping on is this need to be needed that we each individually construct when we aren't in clear identity.
Yeah.
And getting to clear identity, I think, is a journey to almost unlearn things, not necessarily learn new things, but to shed ourselves of the things that we believe that are not true.
Yeah.
So if you were to pick like one belief system that men or women, humanity, believes in that is not true, and if we could eradicate that one thing, it would get them closer to this state of clear identity.
That is a really good question. Boy, gosh, what one lie does everybody believe? That I'm not good enough. At the end of the day, if you want to talk about fear and failure, insecurity, imposter syndrome, if you want to talk about overwhelming anger or a need to control things, what it comes down to is I'm not good enough. And when I'm not good enough, then everything that happens in my life is a statement in my identity. Meaning if the business is going great, well, then now I'm good enough. If the business has failed, then now I'm not. If the marriage is perfect and we're doing amazingly well, wow, I'm a good husband, I'm a good father, I'm a good person. And when it doesn't, now all of a sudden I'm not. In that place of, I'm a person of faith, so I believe that there's, somebody who would love to have your marriage and your life destroyed. And it comes down to this belief system on the inside that says, I'm not good enough. Therefore, the rest of my life has to prove it. If I can unpack that just really quickly, this place of not being enough really comes from an identity statement from your past. There's nobody I know that doesn't either live from who they're created to be or what their life has told them. Living from who I'm created to be means I'm showing up as who I am, that life mastery life, unleashed in all the things I have. What I call it is that hero in hiding showing up in your life. It's the hero on the inside of you that's coming on the outside. That's the goal that we have in our system and in our course. But the alternative is what most people are living. As I say in the book, life by default is living from what your life has told you you are. And in that place, it's always coming from those things that you've struggled with, those challenges that you've had, those things that you've heard. In my own life with my own experiences, my mother, when I was very young, had some challenges, and she was actually committed to a mental hospital. And in that place, my father had been in a job. He was in the military, so he was out of the country at the time. And so all of us little siblings, me like 4 years old and my 3-year-old and my 5-year-old sister and my 8-year-old older sister as well, were all separated into different households while my mother was taken care of in a hospital and my father came back from a foreign country, Vietnam at that time. Well, there's these identity statements you have that happen from the lives and the hurts that you've dealt with. That young man heard this statement. He felt it on the inside, and it was this: people that love me, leave me. And so we all have these statements that we live out. And so what does that look like when you get into teenage years and you're trying to date people and you're trying to find that special someone and it doesn't work out? What things are you telling yourself? What belief systems do you have around relationship? And then you get into marriage and it's early on and marriage isn't working out great. You're trying to figure each other out and figure out what it looks like to live together and to have habits and ideas and thoughts that are different and things aren't working out. What are you telling yourself about it? Are you telling yourself, oh, this is just going to work out and we're going to be great? Or are you telling yourself, I I remember what this looks like. People who love me leave me. So we're in trouble, and, that insecurity and all those things come up. Well, it happens in business as well. You struggle with academics in school, and then you're in business, and all of a sudden the accounting is wrong and it's your fault because you should have checked it. Now, what is the identity statement you're saying around that? Or, I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm a failure. I knew this was going to happen. I shouldn't have even, right? We're all either living from who we're created to be or what our past and our life has told us. In the place of understanding who I am, nobody else has to make up the difference. In the place of not knowing who I am, everybody does.
I want to take your business analogy and go one step further, because you said in business, like, the accounting's wrong, I should have known, and therefore it makes it mean that I don't know and I'm a failure, right? And then the next action that a business owner does, if they don't get into the seat of clear identity, is I have to do more. I'm doing something wrong, therefore I need to do more.
Yeah.
I'm going to hire this coach. I'm going to read this book. I'm going to fire that person and hire a new person. And then we have this revolving door of the same problem of hiring and replacing people, hiring and replacing coaches, hiring and replacing books, seminars. And at some point, the leader has to say, I am not the leader I need to be yet to run the type of company I want to run. And therefore, they then need to go into, or they're being invited to go into, an inner crusade. To uproot whatever is inside that is making them think that they're not enough, making them think that they have to do more in order to get better results. And transform first, heal first, and then go hustle.
Yeah, I love that, because really what it comes down to is my circumstances are an identity statement I give myself. So in business, when things aren't working well, it doesn't matter that the business isn't working well. From this standpoint, I'm not worried about the business. I'm worried about what that action, that interaction, that response, that outcome says about me. And this is everybody. Again, if I don't live from who I am, then my circumstances become more than just something to figure out, some challenge to work through. It becomes this is an identity statement about me. If my relationship isn't working out at home and I don't know who I'm created to be, well, that's a statement of me. I'm not worthy. I'm not worth loving. So in either case, it all comes down to identity. But challenge happens in everything. I can make a mistake. I can miss out on a accounting error that I should have caught. Well, what's the next thing that happens? As you said, right? Is it I'm going to fix it, right? Taking control back. I'm not good enough. It's my fault. Therefore, I have to fix it. Or this is a circumstance that we're going to find the answer to, because you and I both know, and your listeners as well, there's always an answer to every circumstance. There's never insurmountable challenge. There's just challenges I don't have the answer for yet. And so as I walk in, as I tell the people I work with, I pepper them with it so much they probably have it on their brain. I say this: you're the answer to the circumstance you're walking into. You're not the question that needs to be figured out. You're the answer that needs to be had. And so whatever thing you're walking into, business circumstance, relational circumstance, it doesn't really matter. If you understand who you are, then you understand you're planted there for impact. And when you start with that understanding of identity, all of a sudden answers happen. And so the things you're talking about, right? If there's right decisions and directions to make, you're more easily able to make them, because you're not trying to overcome this feeling of failure. You're simply looking at it objectively as just another challenge I need to find an answer to, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it becomes empowering also.
Yes.
And you're doing it from a very detached way, I guess, in a way. I don't know if that's the right word, but you're doing it in a way where if the thing that you're implementing works or doesn't work, it doesn't uproot you.
Exactly. That is really good. That is really good. Yeah. And the ultimate goal in what we're doing in Life Mastery is freedom, right? I'm a person who believes in freedom. And again, I'm a person of faith. So I believe it's actually a promise in our lives. And what I tell the people I work with, specifically the guys, is freedom looks like something lived out. It's not this cool phrase where, business is going great, we're making all the money, we have all the vacations, everything's chill and it's cool. No, it's this place of, like you said, it's me showing up. The ultimate goal for Life Mastery is this: you showing up as who you're created to be in every area of your life. Doesn't mean challenge doesn't happen. Things happen. We work through things, and that's not a problem. The difference is that I'm showing up as me, and that's enough in every circumstance. Freedom looks like you and who you're created to be lived out in every area of your life.
And it doesn't mean that I'm perfect.
No, and you don't have to be, and you don't require it of yourself, because here's the truth. I hate to bring a truth bomb. Perfection is really just another disguise for insecurity. Mm-hmm. And as we talk about in the course, and as we help the people walk through those past, those pains, those hurts, it's helping people understand, hey, where is a place in your life where you felt like you had to be perfect to be good enough? And how can we bring truth to that so that you don't feel like you have to be that person any longer? It's not managing. And that's one of the things I would tell you. It's not managing emotions. There's so many courses and plans out there that drive me crazy, because what they tell you is you just manage it. I know multimillionaires that I have conversations with, and they're talking about fear of failure and how it always comes up with every deal. And I guess it's just part of success. And that's an absolute lie. There's things that we tolerate that we could actually be victorious in if we just knew that we had the ability to do it. And so that's one of my passions, is letting people know, hey, don't settle for, don't manage what you should actually be able to destroy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, I love that. Yes. We have a right to freedom. Before I got to clear identity, a lot of my pursuit was in eyes open freedoms, more time freedom, more money freedom, more location freedom. And then when I got to the seat of clear identity, the inner freedom, I was free already. And then the external, like your wife, the external is just benefit.
Yeah. And in business, if I could tell this, Staci, what I find with some of the people I work with, I have a student, he just reminds me of a lot of my students, because he was very successful, is very successful in business. But it's that place of freedom that I love what you're talking about, because what he was doing was succeeding as a report card in his life. The problem was that every success didn't last, because it was just simply me not failing this time. Mm-hmm. It was overcoming that fear of failure this time, but every time was a new episode of him trying to have to wrestle through it. Multi-million-dollar deals, and every single one of them was this report card of, okay, I didn't fail this time. And that place of freedom, like you said, Staci, that I'm so passionate about, is because when you're living from that place of being free, life mastery, identity, understanding who you are, now all of a sudden life is a joy. Your business is a passion, not a chore, because you're actually feeling that you're fulfilled, not just succeeding for a moment.
Yes. And I'll even layer onto that. I feel like I could talk to you forever. It also gives me permission to say no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have to self-sacrifice to get another deal done, to take on another client, because I'm not doing it for self-validation. I require of myself to stay in my clear identity more than I require of myself to take on another deal or another project or have another sleepless night.
Yeah, I love that. And in that place, you give yourself priority. Not that it's a place of ego, but it's a place of saying, my health is more important than this next scorecard that I'm trying to reach out for. And the scorecards, like you said, just simply slip away, and it becomes simply me living out from who I am. And it's the truth of, if I'm living from who I am, then I know the things I need to do and not do. Just like I know that I'm tired, I need to rest. I'm hungry, I need to eat. Have low energy, I need to exercise. Whatever those things are, it's making business decisions with that as well. But it's from the health of who you are and the impact you can make. So you have permission to just be you, because just being you is exactly what you should be.
Yes. Oh, the permission to make all those self-honoring decisions.
Yeah.
Then allow us to make other honoring decisions for other people. Oh, so
yes,
good.
That's really good, because then every relationship changes. That man I talked about, when his business changed, his home changed. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't because he was a bad father or a bad husband. It was because we think we can compartmentalize emotions, but you can't. Well, I'll just be honest with you. And so the challenges and the struggles and the stress you have at work are felt at home. But when you're in that place, like you said, when I can be validating to me, I can be validating to every relationship around me. So everybody wins when you do.
Yes. And it's not selfish.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what you should be. And at the end of the day, every person in your life wins. So what could be selfish at that?
Yeah. Oh, so good. So you've lived your life up until now. You've clearly learned a lot and had a lot of experience to gain the wisdom that you have today. At the end of your life, you can change your mind in the future, but for right now, where you have arrived, what do you want to be most known for?
That's a great question. I think there's two answers. The first one is in my family, in my relationship with my wife and the people that I love, my wife, my children, and the people that I love, is I want to be known as a man who loved them well, who was there for them and was engaged in relationship and invested in them for their benefit, not mine. And in a business sense and the passion project I have, Life Mastery, I want to be known for selflessly giving all that I have so that other people are free.
I love this so much. So your passion project, I was going to ask you, what are you working on right now that you're passionate about? But besides Life Mastery, is anything on the horizon that is exciting?
Well, more Life Mastery. So I have my book, Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, Not by Default. I'm currently actually writing a second book. And it's more of a motivational book. It's Life Mastery Motivation, Stories to Inspire. And it really is just kind of those nuggets where Life Mastery, the book, is really kind of what I call a quick start guide to my Life Mastery course. You can read about it, grab tools today that you can implement this week and have an impact this month. But I want to give one that's just inspiration. That's just, when you need that little nugget of overcoming that success story, that person who has, had this wonderful thing in their life, those aha moments. So I'm casually writing that book. I'm not putting all of my energy into it, but it's really investing in Life Mastery and making sure the word gets out wherever, we have the opportunity to have conversations throughout the US and the world. And I just want to continue to invest in that and give people the resources. So it's more of that, more Life Mastery. I have 2 courses I have in the pipeline that I'll be working on that are next stages of it, but I'm fully invested in where I'm at right now. So it's a great life to have for sure.
I love it. I have a selfish question. I wasn't going to ask this, but do you have a process for writing books? Because I would like to, I've written one and I want to write another.
Okay.
And I'm curious if you have a process for it.
Well, it's interesting. The first book came from the course. And so that was easy. It was really, hey, how do I pare it down to a bite-sized level today? And the next one is really, it's a casual writing. So I'm not intentionally sitting down like some authors would. And, over these next 6 weeks, I'm going to do 2 hours a day or 1 hour a day, whatever it is. I'm sure those things work. But it really is, for me, first off, doing the outside work, which is kind of fleshing out ideas, putting down thoughts, writing out little portions and parts that I want to flesh out later to kind of figure it out. With me, I'm kind of more of an abstract, throw out ideas and the things that all kind of are swirling around the same pool and then start to refine it from there. So I don't know if that helps you, but yeah, what's the big idea and what's the voice that you have that is supposed to be had in this book? Because at the end of the day, people want to know who Staci is through it. And you have all the experience. Just to be honest, you have the experience and the know-how to already give them the answers in your book. It's just being able to throw them on paper as you can.
I think that's such a valid point because I think the big idea, I have so many. I think I have a lot of books that I want to write. And I think my process for writing it, I actually got from Brian Tracy. And he said to get 3x5 cards, lined 3x5 cards. And then on the unlined side, you write the chapter title. So chapter 1, 2, 3,
oh, that's good.
5. And then you outline it. So you have your start and your end, and then you go through whatever psychological journey the reader would need to go through, and those become your chapters. And then you carry your 3x5 cards around with you. And then on the line side, every time you have an idea, because we don't lack those, you bullet point it on the line side. And so you have all of these bullet points on the line side for each of the chapters. And then you just sit down and you write chapter 1 with the bullets, chapter 2 with the bullets. And so it kind of organizes the thoughts over time. That process has worked well when I wrote my first book, but I was very clear on the big idea and the transformation journey I wanted the reader to have.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm trying to in this next book, I'm trying to put so many big ideas into one book. And maybe I just need to write like 3 or 4 books and have it be a series. So
have you written all the big ideas down yet?
Yes.
Good.
I have.
Good. And I think, for me, it's throwing out all of those ideas and then you really start to look through them and think about them and mull them over and find out, is there a relationship, right?
Mhm.
And how does it correlate and how does it orchestrate in a way that makes sense? That's A to Z kind of conversation you want to have in your book. Or it may be that you just have some very amazing ideas that'll flesh out on their own. So I'm sure that'll happen as well.
Yeah. Even just having this conversation, I think if I did it with Organizing to Scale Yourself and Organizing to Scale Your Business in those two different books, and both of them are the same journey essentially to clear it. Because in business, it's a clear vision. In yourself, it's a clear identity. Similar. Then you have to build your infrastructure. So in business, you put your, logo, website, funnels, all of that together. But for yourself, you have to get your systems in place, like your life mastery systems. So your daily habits, your calendar, your schedule, and then you need your community. Like in business, it's your team and your tribe and your clients and all of that. But in life, you have, your family, your men's groups, your women's groups, your thought partners. And so maybe if I wrote both those books separately, and then somebody could read them together, and this is how you organize to scale your business and your life. But
yeah, I think you've got your book already.
Well, thanks for being a thought partner with me.
What would be interesting, I don't know if you've ever seen it, was 2 books in one.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the personal side and you have the business side. What would be really fascinating is a book that's this way, that's your business, and you turn it over and there's the other side of your personal.
Ooh.
It's more of a marketing tool than maybe helping out with the thoughts, but I'll give it to you in case it matters.
Well, because it's so true, because even in our whole conversation today, some people hit their enough is enough moment in business.
Yeah.
So they create all of these dynamics in business of performance perfection that they hit their brick wall. And I think business building is just an accelerated human journey. We get to this moment faster.
Yeah.
And in your personal life, we also do it. We do it by self-sacrificing, people-pleasing, narcissism, all the things that are labeled in the world, but it's the same thing. It's just this need to be needed that we orchestrate. And if business just accelerates it, but it's still the human journey. So it's opposite sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
So your whole book thing is like the visual of that.
Yeah. And I love how they both matter to the other. And I love how you're correlating one to the other with similarities. Mm-hmm. So somebody who's on a personal development journey who wants to do business sees how they grow personally, and then they can relate it to the business things you're doing. But somebody in business who's saying, what's holding me up? They'll relate to your business side and get the structures of it. And then the other side is that personal side where it's like, oh, this is the missing component. Mm-hmm. And so I love the interrelation because you hit 2 audiences that maybe are looking towards the same thing from different perspectives. I really like what you're doing.
Well, you just helped a lot. This is the collaboration. I love it.
Phenomenal.
Thank you.
For sure.
So if people want to connect with you, because I don't know why they wouldn't, especially men who are seeking to master their life and their businesses, how would they connect with you?
Yeah, I try to be a one-stop shop. So you can go to my website, which is freedom-4-life.net, freedom-4-life.net. You can purchase my book there. I have my course there, Life Mastery. And I also have a free discovery tool. So if you're somebody who's trying to figure out this stuff we're talking about on Life Mastery and you want to know where you're at, quick 40 questions, you get your summary at the end and you can know where you're at in your life mastery journey and what's that next level up, that next way you can accelerate that journey for yourself. So all of that's on my website.
Awesome. And we'll put all of that in the show notes so people can just click and head on over there. And Mark, it was really a pleasure getting to know you, getting to understand your worldview, and also how your worldview is shaping your business. And I think that's a beautiful journey. And I hope a lot of people take from this conversation that they can have eyes open wins and freedom and also eyes closed, and they aren't mutually exclusive. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Staci. It's been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. And to everyone listening, I hope this conversation inspires you to stay rooted while you also get shit done, because the dreamer and the doer have to meet. And we encourage you to do both. So cheers, y'all.